Lyle Taylor provided Nottingham Forest with one of their most memorable moments when they gained promotion to the Premier League in the 2021-22 season. After a mediocre performance, Forest were losing 1-0 going into second half stoppage time on a miserable Tuesday night at Bristol City. Up steps super sub Taylor with 2 goals in 90 seconds to give the Reds a memorable victory and to begin the momentum that ultimately resulted in promotion. I had the pleasure of talking to Lyle last week as we discussed that moment, promotion, a leg break that has been kept quiet during last season at Nottingham Forest, and life after Forest, with the striker now thoroughly enjoying life at League One Cambridge United, plus his thoughts on potential blue cards and officiating. However, I started off by asking Lyle about something very close to his heart and a campaign that has inspired many supporters, much like my 10-year-old cousin, to get involved and raise money for breast cancer during Pink October.
Across the years, but how many people have got involved and have kind of taken it on is brilliant, and especially the younger fans as well. There's another little boy when I was at Charlton called Harry Gerda who did similarly to your cousin and took it on and ran with it and kind of did their own thing from the back of it. So it's brilliant to see, really.
The promotion season, I suppose Forest was your big move, and then you didn't play, I suppose, as much of a bigger part as you would have liked, but I was at that Bristol game, and honestly, that is one of the best away days of my life. So to play your part, I bet it must have been quite special on that night.
Yeah, it was. Forest was, I suppose, if I was to put my 3 years into a sentence, it would have been the best time and the worst time of my career. Because it was like the culmination of I suppose 14, 13 years, however many years it had been, 12 years of effort and hard work to get to that point. And then it kind of didn't go fantastically for one reason or another. Not to blame any one person in particular or lay a reason at any one person's door or anything like that. It just kind of didn't really work out in the way that I wanted it to. So it was tough, but on the other side of things, it was fantastic to be part of such a, I mean, it sounds such a cliche, but such a big historic football club. And obviously I still live in Nottingham now, and I can see how much the football club means to everybody who is red in and around the area. So it's such a big institution, Nottingham Forest, and I wish the club nothing but the very best moving forward, because although it might not have worked out the way I wanted it to, the fans were fantastic with me, and I still have conversations with fans when I see them in Sainsbury's, and they stop and want to have a chat and things like that. So I wish the club nothing but the best going forwards. But yeah, to play my small part in what was I suppose 25 years or 26 years of trying to get back to the level is fantastic to have a small anecdote in that story.
Yeah, and it's nice to hear you say things like that. But throughout your career, it was, I suppose, very up and down, and you'd maybe face rejection. But Forest was the highest point, I guess. But then in January, we sort of brought Keenan Davison and Surridge on loan, and then you were sort of sent out on loan to Birmingham. So how tough was it to deal with the fact that, you know, something special was happening, but maybe you wouldn't have a chance to be a part of it at the end?
Do you know what? I never really looked at it that way.
Yeah.
I went out on loan to Birmingham, and I really enjoyed my time at Birmingham. I'm not going to lie about that. I really enjoyed my time at Birmingham. I was going back to work alongside a manager who I'd worked with previously and who I have a lot of love for, a lot of respect for, and similarly, from his point of view, I assume. So it was never a case of, I feel like I'm missing out or anything like that. It was simply, I need to get out and play football. I wish the boys the very best at the time. And yeah, something special was happening. But let's be completely honest. The something special that was happening was still very much a middle of the road championship team at that time. If we're talking about January, it was I suppose the culmination of 6 months, 7 months worth of efforts that ended up in promotion. But at the time I left, there were green shoots, but it wasn't the something special that the season turned out to be, if you know what I mean. So it wasn't really that difficult for me to leave. I wasn't getting enough time on the pitch, and I kind of needed to do that for my own career and kind of well-being. It's only when we look back at it now that we can see how special that year turned out to be, because at the time when we were in it, it was simply the next game. I think even if you asked Steve Cooper, he'd say the same thing.
Yeah, we heard him say that quite a lot. Just checking, did you get a medal for Forest get promotion or not?
I did. I was fortunate enough to get one.
Something that you said there about getting game time. Obviously, when Forest got promotion, then it was sort of back to being on the bench or not really in the fold. I saw you doing a lot of media work and things like that, and sort of in your early 30s. Did you think this was maybe the end, or was there always a desire eventually to get back out on the pitch?
No, it was never the end for me. I mean, at the time of promotion, I was, 32?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was 32 at the time of promotion, and it was like, I went back into pre-season, and I knew it was going to be difficult for me to get a chance and get minutes and kind of force my way in. But I went in pre-season with the right attitude, and the attitude of, no, I want to make a fist of this. And I did. I mean, any of the players who were around the building at the time will say I came back into pre-season with a good attitude, and I performed in pre-season. So it wasn't a case of trying to kind of get out. It was like, I want to give this a go and see if it kind of stacks up, if I stack up.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it kind of didn't really work, but I was on the bench and I was involved in the squad for the first 2 games, and then things kind of got a little bit more difficult for me. But that kind of was what it was. There wasn't really a lot I could do about that other than do what I was doing. So I was training, I was playing, and in training and things like that, I was doing everything that I possibly could to kind of force the manager's hand into giving me a chance. It didn't quite work out like that. That's football, that's life. But yeah, it was a learning process for me, and I kind of just got on with it. It was what it was. There wasn't really a great deal to say beyond that, to be honest.
Yeah, so watching the season go by and fighting, like you say, going into training every day and giving your all, but not really being given a shot. What was it difficult, or like you say, was it just an acceptance of the fact that that's the situation you were in?
It was kind of an acceptance of, like, this is where we are.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had to kind of do the right thing and keep myself in a position where I was in a state that I could leave and go and play football elsewhere. Now, I mean, it's a bit of a convoluted story, but basically what happened was I was told at the end of the transfer window that I wasn't going to be part of the plans, which was fine. I then agreed to pay up with the football club, with the then CEO or sporting director, which was Dane Murphy. Mm-hmm. Then there was a mistake with the paperwork, which wasn't on my part. So that didn't allow me to be paid up and released from my contract, basically. So at that point, I was then trying to get a move to Turkey,
right?
Because their window was open a little bit longer than the British window. And that move fell through for, well, it was 2 clubs and they fell through for 2 different reasons, but neither of those reasons were within my control, which was very frustrating. And then I kind of had to just train at the football club in the afternoons on my own until the January transfer window. a week before the January transfer window, I was training with the under-21s or the 23s or whatever they were at the time, and I broke my leg.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
it was like everything had kind of just happened and had kind of almost, I suppose, formed against me. It was completely out of my control. There was nothing that I could do. But at the same time, I kind of just had to get on with it. You don't really have a great deal of control over the things that happen in football. It's a mega industry, a massive industry, and yeah, it's just kind of what happened, and you kind of just have to get on with it and deal with it the best you can, and that's what I tried to do.
Yeah, and just finally on Forest, I mean, as Forest fans, we all adore Steve Cooper, but since he's gone and over the time he was at the club, there was a lot of stories about, you're the example, and this season there's been a few of players that were sort of banished and not really wanted around the first team situation. We've seen Joe Lolly, who's came out and said a similar thing just today as well. So do you feel like you and some of the guys were unfairly treated at all?
Well, yeah, there was plenty of people who weren't treated fairly, let's say. But look, don't get me wrong, life isn't fair, and football is no different. The thing is in football is we learn, and I have learned, is that you're a piece of meat, you're a number on a spreadsheet. That's all that matters. While you're useful, and then once you've outlived that usefulness, that's it. And that goes for football clubs at every level. It's not something that is simply Nottingham Forest based. That is football at every single level. When a player is useful, the club will do whatever the club do, and then once that player outlives their use, the club will invariably do what they can to get rid of that player. It's not nice, but that's the industry, and we know that going into it. And I've seen what Lolly put up today, and I mean, in his situation was his situation. It's not for me to speak on that, and I won't speak on that. But I can only speak on what happened to myself. And yeah, it wasn't fantastic to be kind of in the situation I found myself in. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. That the game is the game.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the broken leg and things like that, and the season obviously ended. You weren't playing much of a part. So the road to recovery, talk to me about that, and were the club supportive through that?
So at this point, Dane Murphy had left the club, and there was another person in charge, an Italian person. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And that Italian person tried to refuse me treatment.
Oh.
Tried to send me to Italy for my rehab for my broken leg, which obviously under current rules and regulations with the Football League and the FA and whoever else, being a contracted player is actually technically illegal. So that happened, and I was refused treatment at the football club, which wasn't down to the manager. I will say that. And I ended up having to do my rehab at St George's Park.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they looked after me for 14 weeks, which was very good of them, because obviously as much as it's kind of their job to rehabilitate injuries and things like that and do the right thing by the player, I was technically not a player out of contract, so it wasn't really their duty to look after me, but they were absolutely fantastic, and I cannot thank the guys at Game Changer, which is at St George's, enough for how they treated me and getting me back on my feet and back on the right road, I suppose, to full health.
When was it that you were sort of fit and ready to get back into the first team, and how long did it take you then to find a club, and was there many other offers?
Oh, I was back in training last season and playing last season. I played for the under-21s.
All right, okay.
At Forest last season. I was out for, I think, about 12 weeks, 13 weeks with my broken leg. before I was back and fit to train.
Yeah.
So that was obviously December. I broke my leg, so I was back in by the end of March, and I was given the platform to train and play by Joycey, who is the 21s manager at Forest. And he was brilliant with me. He was absolutely brilliant as well. So I owe him a massive thank you as well. And I've told him this previously. That allowed me to kind of get fit and get back out on the pitch, the training pitch at least, which was good. So I then spent the summer jobless. It was a very difficult summer for me personally, because you kind of you're in no man's land, which is kind of where I was, which was tough. But I kind of adopted the same attitude that I am where I am and when I'm supposed to be there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of all I could do. Is I kept myself ticking over. I kept myself as fit as I possibly could, training with the people I was training with, which was over in Crewe, and not at the football club, but a private clinic.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did what I could to keep myself in shape.
Yeah, so then the move to Wycombe came about in November. Was that one of the first clubs to approach you, or did you have quite a lot of offers around that time?
So Wycombe were brilliant. I can't thank Wycombe enough, because Wycombe gave me an opportunity to come in and train and play that nobody else had given me. And I mean it was massive for me to be given that opportunity when nobody else had really kind of afforded me that. So I've got a massive thank you to them and for how they treated me. But yeah, it was kind of just a summer of waiting, really. It wasn't a great deal going on. The football market wasn't very good. It was just kind of one of those, like, to sit and wait and hope and see if something would come up, and eventually it did.
And it must have been the first time in your career that you'd really had that since coming through academies and things. So was it tough and weird, or was it just the same attitude you had before of I'll get on with it and see what comes my way?
Yeah, it was difficult. It was difficult. Playing golf got me through. I played a lot of golf in the summer to try and kind of clear my own head. But yeah, it's very odd, because the market in football right now is different to how the market in football normally is. It's just a very, I suppose, unique set of circumstances and situations at the moment with the way football is working and the way the market is. So yeah, it's difficult, but what can you do? You just can't get on with it.
So the Wycombe move, obviously, they really helped you, I'm guessing, mentally big time, and to get your foot back in the door, but only sort of 3 starts and things, so it didn't really maybe work out. So what was it then about Cambridge approaching you that made you think, this might be the move for me this time?
Well, I played with the manager
Neil Harris,
many moons ago. We were, I say teammates. I use the term loosely. Obviously, I was a reserve team player at Millwall, trained with the first team and things like that. But yeah, we were effectively teammates many moons ago. So it was kind of like, well, look, he knows me. He was a striker. He knows how to get the best out of strikers. And I'd expect him to kind of set a team up where it would be possible for me to succeed. Mm-hmm. So I thought, yeah, this is it. This is the one. This is going to be good. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't have a whole heap of options, but I thought it would be a good option for me. So I decided, yeah, we're going to take that one, and we'll go and we'll see how we get on. And I mean, to this point, it's working out well. It's a lot of work to be done between now and the end of the season, but I'm really, really enjoying my time at the football club.
Yeah, I was going to talk about your debut because you came off the bench, a goal and assist to win the game against Fleetwood. And I suppose after 18 months of injuries, setbacks, rejection, finally maybe you'd found somewhere that you fitted in. I bet it felt good.
Oh, it feels incredible. The fans have been amazing with me. I can't thank the fans enough. They have been absolutely fantastic with me from my first reception when I walked onto the pitch to do the warm-up before the game against Fleetwood, to how they've received me and sung my name and I suppose appreciated my efforts and endeavours in the game subsequently. I can't thank them enough. The only thing I can do is keep doing my utmost to perform to kind of, I suppose, pay them back for their support, and the only way I can do that is goals, really. So I'll be doing the very best I can to do that, because they deserve it. They're a really, really good group of fans, and I want to do everything I can to help bring them some semblance of success.
And I remember when you signed for Cambridge, because one of my friends is a Cambridge fan, and she was asking me, "Oh, what's this Lyle Taylor like?" And now she's been telling me how well you're doing and how much the fans love you. So you've been a fan favourite, really, at many clubs that you've been at. How much does fan recognition and love mean to professional footballers?
Oh, it's massive.
Yeah.
It is absolutely massive. We might we might say differently publicly, but to be loved and to be appreciated by fans is absolutely incredible, and it is massive for a footballer, because it allows you and it makes you go just that little bit harder, that extra yard to try and bring success to the fans who support you and sing your name, and it's easy to do that when a player's doing well. But when a player's struggling, to have that same affection and kind of love and feeling is massive. So as long as, especially players like me, players who are, I suppose we play on emotion.
Yeah.
Those players need that little bit of love from fans, and it brings that extra few percent out of those players.
Yeah, and what about Cambridge this season? Then when I had a look, I think you were 4 points above the relegation zone, but there's a few game in hand with some bizarre circumstances, not least the rain and the floodlight situation. So where do you see Cambridge going this season? Because it looks like you've got a really strong bond and are really looking up.
Yeah, we are. Of course we are. We are looking to move forwards and upwards, and that would, I suppose, resemble success for the football club. But at the same time, we have to be aware that we are where we are, and we've got work to do to keep the team in the league before we can start looking forwards and looking upwards. So success is going to be getting to the 48, 50 point barrier, getting through that, and then going, okay, where can we build from here? But we have to get there first. We can't worry about anything else before we've reached the destination of, I suppose, safety. So we need to focus on picking up results for the near future, and getting over that, I suppose, invisible line. And then we can see if we can finish the season with a nice little flourish and see how many points we can possibly gain.
And when you came in, I believe you guys went unbeaten for the first 4 games before sort of losing the last 2. So how much credit are you taking for that?
Absolutely none. I've come in and done my job, and that's it. I'm simply doing my bit alongside the rest of the players that are at the football club, where there's no, my input or whatever it might be has been bigger than yours or better than yours or anything like that. It's simply let's get the job done, and that's all we can do.
And it does sound like you're really looking at home at the minute. So what about sort of in the future? We mentioned your media work earlier, but it does sound like you're really enjoying Cambridge. So could you see yourself extending the contract past this year?
Well, look, it's not for me to say, really. That's unfortunately, it's not up to me. I don't get to make all of those decisions. I have to take care of what I can take care of, and that's the football side of things. And kind of the rest of it will take care of itself, and I have to leave that to the people who take care of me and look after me, and then I suppose it'd be the hierarchy of the football club if that's the direction they want to go in, and the manager. The only thing I can do is score as many goals as possible to help keep the team safe, and we can worry about the future beyond that.
Yeah, it's really good to see you enjoying it, because I think at Forest we do hold you fondly in our hearts. I just want to finally ask you about something that's sort of maybe a wider issue in football at the minute. There's talk about this new blue card / sin bin rule. As a professional footballer, what's your take on it?
Okay, so it is the biggest load of crap I have ever heard. I think would be to put it diplomatically. Yeah,
because I mean, what's the standard like in League Two? Because in League One, rather, because we see Premier League, referees under scrutiny every week. But how have you found it dropping down the levels?
Put it this way: I have been apologised to in 6 games by 3 referees for big decisions that they've got wrong.
Wow.
And I'm talking penalties, I'm talking just really bad. I took 4 studs in the face last Saturday just gone.
Yeah.
And the referee gave a foul, and that was that.
Wow.
I was fouled in the box on Tuesday night, and the referee apologised after the game and said I made a mistake. So, yeah, I mean, in 6 games, I've been apologised to 3 times by referees for bad decisions. One should have been a red card. One should have been a penalty. And, yeah, I mean, I think that just tells you everything you need to know.
Well, thank you, Lyle. It's been class talking to you, and best luck for the rest of the season for you and Cambridge United. Since we spoke, Lyle has notched an assist last weekend in the U's 4-0 victory over Carlisle before being sent off last night against Bolton. I hope you've enjoyed our chat. You can find me on Twitter at GeorgeEdwards05 with 1 E. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful week.